CJRB EDC back again with another knife video. This is the CJRB Agave. Now, CJRB is the budget arm of Artisan Cutlery, which is an excellent brand out of China that does really good quality knives for reasonable prices, most of them. And let's go ahead and take some size comparisons. While we do this, let's start off with some budget knives since we are in the budget world. This is the Civivi Backlash, very similarly sized knife, and the Spyderco Tenacious, which is a little bit smaller than the CJRB Agave. Let's go ahead and take a look at the CJRB Rhea, which is another knife that's going to be on the channel shortly, and another knife that's going to be on the channel shortly is the Civivi Elementum, which has already been on the channel, but not this version. This is the S35VN micarta version that recently dropped. And here is the Benchmade 943 in the 940 family. And let's go ahead and put the Spyderco Para 3 and the Benchmade Freak. Now the Benchmade Freak from end to end is the same size pretty much as the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So you get a good size comparison there between the Para 3 and the Freak. And this is the most important size comparison I'm going to put up here now, and this is the Kershaw Bareknuckle. Now the Kershaw Bareknuckle is an important size comparison for a couple reasons. Number one, well, the size is pretty much the same. Number two, check out the blade shape. The blade shape is very similar. Obviously, you've got the choil here, no choil here, and you've got the handle shape, which is pretty similar until you get to here, and then it changes a little bit from there to the end. Very interesting. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this knife. What's good on this knife? A couple of things. One is there's aluminum scales on this knife. I love aluminum scales. I think aluminum is really, really underrated as a scale material. Everyone goes nuts over some G10, especially in budget knives, because usually you're looking at FRN or some sort of plastic. But, G10 can feel good, and it can also feel cheap. Spyderco, I think, has a G10 that feels pretty good. Most of the time, but some other brands don't do it as well, and I generally like the feel of metal better as long as it's not weighing down too much. And frankly, aluminum in these options and other options is, I think, a great option. I think it feels great and nice in hand. It isn't too heavy. So I was overjoyed when I saw it in a CJRB budget knife. Now, I don't remember the exact pricing of this. I didn't look it up before the video. I apologize. I meant to look it up before the video, but I believe it's somewhere in the $40 to $50 range. I think the Agave was normally with the G10 around the $35 to $40 range, and so these scales make it slightly more expensive, but actually, I think I remember now. I think these are about like $45 compared to about like $42 for the G10 version. So I'm estimating here, but you guys can go check out the Blade HQ website, which has this knife. It may be available on other websites as well, but the price is awesome on this. So the first good thing about this is going to be the scales. The second good thing is going to be the price. The price on this knife is excellent. You're getting a lot for your money. You're getting aluminum scales. You're getting D2 blade steel. You're getting a design that is otherwise only available in, well, I shouldn't say only available, but this Kershaw Bareknuckle design, I won't say it's a ripoff of the design, but it's very close. So there's a, you've got design details that are, similar to knives that are in the higher end Kershaws and also in the higher end ZTs. And also, I know Kershaw just came out with one that's similar to the Bareknuckle that's very, very budget in 4CR, but we'll leave that to the side because anything in 4CR I'm not really, probably won't see on the channel. Anyway, this has D2 steel, as you can see right there, which is excellent budget steel, as many of you know. Budget steels that I often recommend are D2 and also the 9CR 18 MOV that you often see in like the Civivi Backlash, and a lot of the other Civivi line is also a great budget steel. 14C28N, which is a Sandvik steel, another great budget steel you'll see in a lot of Kershaws like the Leak, and also a couple other Kershaws as well. But all those tend to be pretty good steels. I don't love 8CR 13 MOV, which is what's in the Spyderco Tenacious, but it works, and It definitely works. Let's put it that way. So the CJRB Agave it has a couple of things. Like I said, the scale material, great. The overall design and aesthetic, great. The D2 steel, great. The choil on here is very enjoyable. It has a nice cutout right here for your thumb to go, and gets very good leverage if you want to, do some close-up cutting. So I definitely appreciate that. And it has a deep carry clip, which is mostly deep carry. We'll get to the lanyard hole in a little bit, but it's mostly deep carry, and I really appreciate the fact that this knife really disappears for the most part in your pocket. I do like the accent here on the pivot collar, although the pivot is a little plain. And this is a liner lock, which these days I don't mind, but it is on bearings. And I shouldn't say I don't mind. I don't mind in a budget knife, a well-made budget knife. But this is on bearings and has really, really good action for being in the price that it is. So I definitely appreciate that as well. And it's very fidgety in that regard. As you can see, you can sit here and mess with this all day. All right. So that's pretty much the good. Let's go to the bad on this. So the bad on this, a couple of things. One is the lanyard hole. So the lanyard hole, it's really on the end. I don't think a lot of people, are attaching lanyards to this specific knife. I mean, maybe they are, but I think there are certain styles of knives that people like to put lanyards on. And if you do put a lanyard on this knife, I would, drop a comment below. Let me know, what types of knives you put lanyards on, because I'm actually interested to know. But for the most part, I think most people on this type of knife don't necessarily want to put a lanyard on, unless they're just floating it without the pocket clip. But I don't like the location of this, because it's above the pocket clip. I don't like lanyard holes that are above the pocket clip and block the ability of a deep carry pocket clip to go to the end. Now, that being said, I don't mind a pocket clip that doesn't go all the way to the end. That's fine, as long as the lanyard hole isn't the reason. So this Tenacious is not a good example of that, but it happened to be just one that I pulled up. Let's go here. So I don't mind, a pocket clip like this, but it gives me good purchase on the end or whatever. But I could do without this end over here, right? So if the knife ended right here, I would be happy, even though it doesn't ride deep. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you guys, but I just think that extra pocket, that extra lanyard hole forces this down too far, forces you into a deep carry situation where you're not really deep carrying. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Another thing that I don't like, which is probably the biggest issue with this knife, is the scales are untextured. You can go ahead and look at that texture. And by the way, the color of the scales, if anyone was wondering, they look silver online, but they're actually sort of a very, very, very light bluish tint. I don't know if that was intentional or that's just the natural color of the scales, but that's how it comes across in person. Just something to be aware of. But these are very smooth. And as a result, this knife feels slippery in hand a little bit. I think that's something that could have easily been remedied and taken care of, because you have knives like the Bareknuckle with the chalky feel of the coating or whatever is on the anodization or whatever they do here on the handles for the scales for the Kershaw Bareknuckle. Same thing on the 943 here. Do an excellent job getting texture on here, even when there's no actual milling on the parts that I should say that have no milling. So having some texture on here, some milling on here would have been great. That being said, these scales are somewhat contoured, so that's a plus I forgot to mention over there, is they're somewhat contoured. They're not completely flat slabs, so that does help a little bit with the grip. Anyway, I think those are the biggest pluses, biggest drawbacks. Is this a knife I recommend for the price? Yeah, it is a knife I recommend for the price. Is it something that I'm going to go and say it's a top budget knife? I don't think we're there yet, mainly because that handle needs some texturing. If they fix this in future versions, I would be very happy to recommend it. Oh, one other bad thing is, the handle shape here. So ergonomically, the Bareknuckle is very good. As you can see, ergonomically, your finger, fits in the forward choil here, and then you've got 3 fingers fitting in the back here, and it's curved down. You see this downward curve? That fits your hand really well ergonomically. It's very pleasing. Here, you have that same aesthetic until you get to the pinky area, and then it swoops up. And so you feel like it's in the back of your hand here, and you will feel that a little bit depending on where you're holding it. So here, the fold in my hand is up over here, and this is pushing that up. Is it a big deal? No, but it makes it less comfortable than it could be. So again, but it's not as big of an issue, I think, as the smooth scales here. So again, I do recommend this knife. Wouldn't be a top budget knife for me, but I do think it is sort of a poor man's bare knuckle. And, is that a major development? Not really, because I think for people who limit themselves to $50 on a knife, yes, it's a huge development. To people who, recognize that there's a difference, between $45 and, I think there's $67, I think, on the regular bare knuckle, and the 20 CV one can be had for 80 at times. You're not talking about a lot of money in difference. For something that you're going to have with you for a very long time, you can, spend an extra 20 or 40 bucks, and you can still be considered within the budget realm and have just a much better knife overall in the bare knuckle. But, would I consider it a poor man's bare knuckle? Yeah, I think it does a job. So, I'm not going to do a straight comparison video here of these two. You can see some of the differences. I'll go ahead and point out some of the comparisons here actually before I sign off, because I think that's a good thing for me to do. Again, blade shapes are very similar. You got the choil here, no choil here. You've got the swoop up here. You've got, the swoop down here. Ergonomics are better on this one. Choil is just more of a preference thing. You have a sub frame lock here, and you have a liner lock here. You have a full deep carry here with no lanyard hole getting in the way. You have a deep carry here with a lanyard hole getting in the way. Overall, the design aesthetics are pretty similar. I do think that a lot of people would prefer black aluminum. It's definitely a classic color, but this raw-ish aluminum I think normally would look great. If it was true raw aluminum, like this is raw titanium, this is a Medford Marauder, so this is raw titanium, I would like to see the raw aluminum be more of a metallic color than the bluish color that's here. It could be that the bluish color is the raw aluminum here, but it's a little bit blue, and it sort of clashes with that pivot a little bit. Anyway, I hope I didn't ramble on too much. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. Drop a comment below. Let me know if you have the Agave in any of its iterations, as there are a couple of other iterations of it, or if you've tried out any other CJRB knives. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get all my content. Thanks so much.